Alrighty guys, welcome back. It's your host ID Jester. As we wrap up January 2025, I wanted to get a few reviews out and talk about some of the games that we played in January. And that is going to be a review of Alien Abyss. This is a game by Volko Ruhnke and produced by GMT Games. It is one of these coin games. It's number one in the series. I keep coming back to it every couple years and playing it. I've probably played it 4 or 5 times in the last 10 years or so. And now it's time to give my judgment. There's a lot of really cool things about Alien Abyss. There's also some things I'm not a big fan of. Let's talk about them here in our review, and then we'll give you our overview, our thoughts about how the game plays, and if it's something you should check out. So we always start with the positives, so let's talk about the pros, shall we? Alright. Well, the pros, number one is going to be, you got to start with GMT quality. This is part of the GMT games. GMT does a really good job with their games, producing them, putting the artwork and the time and the effort into producing a solid game experience, putting designer notes in there, putting a play-by-play book and how to play. Every card in the game has its own paragraph and information about it, so you can go and read. Oh, I didn't know this. I can't remember about this. What had happened? And you can go and read the historical notes. You can go find out about all the different cards. You can get tips, advice, everything you want to kind of learn how to play the game. And that's part of the GMT quality, the time and effort they put not in just making the game, but putting it into so that you can learn how to play the game. Number two, all the factions in this game play differently, like most of the coin games. Each faction has their own set of ways to do things. They have their own special abilities, their own end goals to try and win the game. So every faction plays extremely differently. You can play all the different factions and feel like you're doing 4 different games. Number 3, it's very easy to set up again. Going back to the GMT quality, they put all the icons on the board so that you know where to put everything during setup. Setup is very easy. It's outlined how to set up the deck, what cards to put in there, how to shuffle them and get it all ready, where to put all the pieces on the board. You have extra pieces in case you lose some, going back to the GMT quality again. So setup is very easy, very simple. You just put the things on the board, shuffle up some decks, and you're pretty much get the player aids out and you're ready to go. Number 4. Speaking of the play aids are excellent. You will probably not use the rule booklet very much because the play aids are so good and they outline just about everything you need to know about the factions, what each of the operations do, each of the special activities, and outlines them very well, those player aids. And there's also player aids for the solo mode. There's player aids for everything that you need in the game. So it's the player aids are excellent, and again, it keeps you from having to drag out the rule booklet and flip through the rule booklet. You can get most of your answers to your questions on the player aids. And last but not least, this game is all about making the players make some interesting, tough decisions. Do you take the event on the cards? Do you use a special opportunity? Do you wait and not use that, waiting to go to the next card, and maybe the next card might be something better for you? If you're going to go second on this card, do you want to, wait until take the better event the next time, but you might not be able to do what you want to do on that? So it gives the players a very tough an interesting decision to make, and that's what's really good about this game is you're flipping a card. 2 of the factions are going to be able to do something, and 2 of the factions are going to have to wait till the next card. Or are they? Because if the other 2 factions decide to, I don't want to do anything now, I might want to wait. I might want to see what the government does so I can kind of, do something else. It is full of tough, interesting decisions, and that what's, kind of the core mechanics of the game that make it really, really fun and interesting. So, a lot of really good things about Alien Abyss. What don't we like about it? Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the cons. These are going to be the 5 worst things that I feel that the game lacks or just doesn't do very well. Number 1 is the solo mode is kind of an older solo mode. The coin system has gone through an evolution. They're up to coin 12, I think, now. So this is game 1. And it came out in 2012, I think is when it came out. So the coin games through the years have gone through an evolution, and they realized that the solo mode that came out, in the first few, games needed to be updated with a more easier system for people to learn how to play it. So it is an older solo mode, and it can be, if you're going to play this game solo, it can be a little challenging to play them solo. I try not to use the old solo mode. I just don't find it as enjoyable. I do enjoy the newer solo modes with Gandhi and All Bridges Burning and the new update to Fields of Fire. I like the cards-based system better than the charts and flow charts and stuff. Number 2, there is only a couple scenarios. There's kind of a shorter scenario, and then there's kind of a big normal scenario. So that's it. You don't have what happens if X, Y, and Z. No, there's none of that. It's play the big campaign or play the small campaign. That's pretty much your choices. So I mean, you just, there isn't a lot of different things when you're coming to this game. You're coming to play through those years of history and find out what had happened. And so there's not a lot of differences that's been added to the game, and it's just two, like I said, a shorter scenario and a longer scenario, and you choose which one of those you're going to play. Number 3, you must have all 4 factions in the game. This is not one of those games where it's like, oh, we're just going to just ignore this faction. We're just going to ignore this faction. We'll just play me and you. We'll just play. No. If you're playing with 2 people, then each player takes 2 factions. So you're going to be running 2 different factions because all 4 factions have to be in the game the whole time. So there isn't like, oh, we'll just ignore that faction and we'll just pretend that faction never existed. And no, you can't do any of that. All 4 factions have interweaving capabilities and goals, and you can't just ignore them. So you have to play with all 4 factions. So if you're playing with 3 people, one person's going to be playing 2 factions, or you can have one of the factions become in solo, and run through the solo mode. So if 2 people are playing, 2 people are going to each run 2 factions. So you have to play with all 4, unfortunately. Number 4. And again, the coin game went through some evolution, but in coin game number 1, the government capability cards, which were super good. I should start over. The government capabilities can be super good or super weak, depending on when the cards come out. And it forces the government player to basically take their turn doing the event because they want the capabilities, which kind of nerfs them because they can't do anything else if they take the event. And the event just gives them a capability that will happen throughout the rest of the game. And if you watch my playthrough of Alien Abyss I did a couple weeks ago, as the government, they got the sweeping only cost 1 resource instead of 3 resources, which made sweeping very good throughout the rest of the game. And they took that capability because it came out very early. Later in the game, when these capabilities come out, they're completely worthless because it's only going to save you. It's late in the game. You might do like maybe 1 more sweep. Are you going to waste a whole action just to save two money? It just doesn't make sense. So the government capabilities, kind of force the government's hands. And as I said, the coin system has gone through an evolution, and they realized, we should give capabilities to all the factions and make it all interesting. So And last but not least, and this is what I'm going to call allies versus all. And what I mean by this is certain factions usually are allied with one another, and you have the government faction, and they're usually aligned with the ACU faction, AUC faction, and they normally have they both want to kill the FARC, right? So they're kind of allies, but they're also playing for themselves. So what ends up happening is you expect your allies to do certain things, but if they don't do certain things, then then you blame them. Like, hey, how come you're not killing the FARC? Well, how come you're not killing the FARC? How come you're not doing this? Look at the the other faction is completely out of control, and so you got this allies are allies, but they're also trying to work for themselves. So you expect your allies to do certain things, and if they don't do certain things, then everything falls apart, and one faction ends up winning, which is what happened with our game. The FARC faction won because the government thought the ACU was gonna, or the AUC was going to destroy the FARC bases. The AUC was trying to destroy the FARC bases, but they kept getting destroyed elsewhere, and they didn't have the capabilities, and so they wanted the government to do it, but the government was trying to do other things, and so it's like the government's like, I can't do everything, you gotta help me here, buddy. And then so you had this infighting between allies, and then the FARC ended up winning. So you can have this situation where it comes down to players expecting other players to do things because it's that's what's supposed to happen, but those players can play their faction however they want because it's all it's for themselves. And so you can run into this conflict of interest kind of situation, which can be a problem with some groups and some players. All right, so that is kind of the 5 positive, the 5 negative things about Alien Abyss. Let's give you my verdict. Well, I keep coming back to this one because I think it's a very solid entry into the coin-based system. It is complex, but not overly complex. It is interesting, but it doesn't drag you down with extra rules like some of the other coin games. And it makes it I think it makes it a very good entry point in the game system. If you're familiar with your play other board games and stuff, and you understand a lot of the mechanisms, you'll understand how to play this game pretty quickly. The negatives about this game is there are some negatives that I feel about this game, but I still think it's a great introduction. The components and the quality are awesome. The solo mode, I wish GMT would spend a little time and update all the coin games to the newer solo mode, because I know a lot of people play this solo. And to be honest, to play this solo with their charts and stuff it's painful, and it's going to take you 2 or 3 games just to get comfortable with it. And I don't have 2 or 3 games to get comfortable with the solo system. So I wish they would update the solo system and make it more updated with the card-based system. Like I said, Gandhi has got a really good solo system. All Bridges Burning, and I wish they would bring that back to some of the older coin games and give them a little bit of love. I know they updated with the solo system with new charts and flow charts and stuff like that, but I still think it's a great, awesome game, and it's very interesting subject. You don't find much about the Colombian Wars in South America in the late 80s and early 90s. And so it's a topic you're not going to find a lot of games about. And I find it very interesting, the history and the moments. And again, you can go into the rule booklets on every single card, and you can read a couple paragraphs about the event and what really happened in real life. And it kind of puts you in the moment. and it kind of makes the game more interesting because you can follow along with what had happened. You can remember these moments, and you can kind of tailor your strategy towards them. And again, you can have some infighting between allies and expect allies to be doing certain things.
Put this on backwards.
So there can be a little bit of influx and fighting in between players, which can cause some conflicts. And oh, you're supposed to do this. Well, you're supposed to do this. Everyone's trying to do the best to win, and sometimes it doesn't help. You with your allies, or you versus everyone else. But all in all, that's part of the coin design. You have to go in knowing there's friendships, and then there's allies, and then there's going for what's best for you, and everyone's trying to win. So I'm going to say that this game is an 88%, and it is a very good game. I would highly recommend, if you're trying to get into coin, try and pick this one up. It's an older game. Again, 2012 I think is when it came out. So maybe I know it's probably on the P500 to reprint this. You might go to the GMT Games website and put your P500 order in, and maybe we can get the numbers up so they'll reprint it sometime this year. So I don't know how available there are, how many games are available out there, but I think it's a good game. You can play a short scenario that's a couple hours. You can play a longer scenario that's like 3 or 4 hours, and you'll have a really good time at the end. And it'll be a good experience. And I think in the long run, it might get you to try other coin games. There are other games in the system that I think are going to be better, but there are more games in the system that I think are worse than this game. I think this is coin game number 1. It's a good starting point. There are some older mechanisms that need to be updated in this one. Hopefully GMT will do that someday. But until then, it's still a great game to go back to every couple years and try it, pull it out, and play it. And play through a whole scenario. I've got one here on my channel just from a couple weeks ago, and you can check that out if you want to see some gameplay on it. Thanks everyone for coming by. I do very much appreciate it. It's good to see everyone out there. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this, hit that like button. If you played Alien Abyss, leave a comment down below what you would rank it at. I would love to hear your thoughts and comments as well, and see if there's something I'm missing and there's something I forgot about. Let me know in the comments section down below what your thoughts are and what you would score this if you were going to rate it. Until next time, my friends, you take care of yourselves. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. Until then, take care of yourselves, and don't you forget, I will see you all down the line. Bye for now.